Hi, welcome back to another TerranScapes video. This video is another step in the ongoing cliff project that has been sort of preliminarily worked on with the LEDs and some of the lava experiments. More of that will come up in the future, but at this point I feel confident enough to start carving foam on it. And over the last couple months, while I've been working with the lights and other sort of fiddly bits, the customer and I have been in regular communication, and he had added some elements as we went along to the project that were not originally incorporated in my earliest sort of sketches of the layout. And when I started to get ready to do a sort of revised sketch, I realized that there's a lot going on this project, and it's going to be almost a tight fit, so I wanted to make sure that everything fit within the structure and would look appropriate for slopes and whatnot. So what I thought I would do, it's pretty unusual, but I thought I would bring you all in, but particularly the customer, to take a look at my drawings, and that way I can give a little bit more of an explanation as to what's going on, because there's all sorts of stuff going on. But you know, somebody out there is going to be an architect, and they're going to look at my drawings and they're going to say, no, 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 you don't do it this way, do it that way. I'm no architect. So, you know, these are my drawings, and hopefully they'll be at least legible to the architects out there. So let's take a close look at them and I'll talk about them more. So I have not tried to do this before, so I'm not sure how this will come out. I'm going to try to do some close-ups just in case this doesn't look legible at this distance from the camera, but I wanted to kind of give an overview of it, and we'll see how the camera does with all of this white. It tends to shift down quite a bit when it perceives a lot of white, but maybe I can correct that in the editing. So basically this represents a top view of the entire structure, and the customer basically had an idea of creating a four-sided structure that would then be sort of like two faces for each style of gaming that he wanted to enjoy. So there's a sort of modern-day warfare kind of perspective with machine gun nests and a slopey, rocky path for troops to assault over. And then on sort of this side, potentially, I mean, think of it as split, but on this side, this will have the dwarven entrance, ancient entrance that you might have seen in a previous video, an archer emplacement, some of the lava that I've been working on as well. And then on the top here, the 24 inches of space here, which is actually 25, is to receive a castle that he already has, in his possession, and that has a footprint roughly 24 inches in size. One of the initial things that we discussed was having a little bit of a flat area in front of the castle, and this started to get dropped in my last iteration of this because I was trying to stick to a pretty tight size for this, and after consulting with him, he gave me some options to push out some of the boundaries. So I've maintained this 10 inch, so this would be 10 by 25 inch sort of flat area here to give, an area for open space, whether, and then the castle will be kind of perched on these cliffs and slopes on these three sides. So looking at it from an overview, a couple of the things about it, and then we'll talk about some of the side views. So the total structure is now 70 inches across, and it's actually marked 50 here, but I realized when I was doing that that it's actually 45 to this point across at its largest point. So in that light, I was kind of maxing it in my mind at 48, but so that kind of gives me almost like 5 more inches if I really wanted to push it out to control the slope as it ascends up to the top. So anyway, 45 inches. The top of the piece will be 24 inches high, and so that controls a lot of my ability to control slopes around the edge of it. Oh, George. Hi, George. Anyway, so basically, a couple things that I wanted to take into consideration. The maximum slope that you can have coming off of a piece, and actually we'll come back to this in a second. So let's look at, here we go. So this is looking at a profile view of side A. So side A, this is side A here, that was probably off camera. So we're really looking at this from this perspective straight on. And before we talk about this, it highlights these angles here. So with using 70 inches across, preserving that 35 inches at the top, it allows me on this side to put a 60-degree slope up this side, and this one's a little bit, 50 degrees here and 60 degrees up to this side. That is about the steepest you can have, 60 degrees meaning that you can have a naturalized slope before it starts slumping away and you end up with a cliffside. So I wanted to try to preserve a front and a rear slope. This will have lava coming down it on this side, and this will be the ascent route for troops coming in from the water's edge. This is going to be basically an island, and so troops could land here and then walk up the slope. So in order to preserve that angle, right, and maintain this this height, I had to kick out this bottom out to 70 inches. Now, the customer was very flexible and said, you know, if I wanted to, I could raise this height or modify these top dimensions. But as soon as I push this up any higher, to maintain those angles, right, the base starts to expand accordingly. So I really wanted to keep it at the 24-inch height, and that way it would constrain the base maximum size just a little bit. So while we're here, and George is going to play with the lights while we do this. So looking at this side up close a little bit here, and we'll see if I can hold it without it moving around too much. So this will be the ancient entrance. It has a roughly 10 by 10 10 by 10 footprint, 10 inches by 10 inches. And then the customer was mentioning that he'd like to see some, oh, cat. He'd like to see a walkway, sort of Moria inspired, if you will, Balrog, you know, Moria scene inspired, that would have the lava flowing behind it and then a pool emerging underneath it and a little into the front of it, right? So the lava's kind of pouring out through the bottom. So that's what I've tried to capture here. Now, I'd like to use the mold that I've currently shown to do this slope here. So this is a pretty gradual slope. It's only about 15 degrees for this slope here. So that's a nice slow flowing lava, so I can, you know, paint it bright and start darkening it as it comes down to here. And I'll have to do a new master for the dropping lava here as it's flowing much more quickly. And I have a whole video coming up on lava. I've been doing a lot of looking at videos and pictures, and somebody, anyway, cued me into that, and that's been very helpful. But in any case, so he also wanted archer platforms, sort of like defensive archer platforms. We'd initially discussed, you know, maybe having 3 scattered around on this face, but this starts to highlight why these drawings were so important. We're not looking at a flat side here, right? This is curving around these edges. This is curving around this edge. So when we come back to this, looking at a top down from this slope, a good portion of this is going to be facing the wrong direction and or not usable, particularly on this side, as this is a very tight transition from here to here. So this is actually going to be all cliff, and it's going to be you know, very close to the entrance. And so I don't have quite a bit of space to put it in. So I've just opted for one sort of archer emplacement. This is going to be 7 inches by 3 inches deep, and you'll see that again in another angle. The other thing that I wanted to try to do was, you know, we moved this up from our initial estimation. So this is about 10 inches high from the base, and that gives me only about 4 inches here to the top. I'm going to recess this slightly, and so, but not a lot actually in the long run, I don't think. But in any case, going from, there's a lot to cover here. Going from this point to the ground, I wanted to maintain a 20-degree angle as much as possible. 20 degrees is normally the stability slope of miniatures. Now the miniatures that are being used for this set is actually 54 mil, so they're slightly more stable, but I thought it's a good guide to go with. So I kept this at 20 degrees, and then transition to a stonework piece that will be pulling away from this, so it'll be coming forward, and then the lava can flow behind it, and there'll be pillars supporting it, you know, on the ground as it comes out. Now I left these jagged because I'm not entirely sure how high they're going to be, and in the end I'm going to have to do all the carving to receive it first, and then probably carve this to fit into the existing terrain with some minor modifications there. But you know, this takes up a lot of footprint of this side here to make this transition. This is quite a long distance here, and you can see, you know, we're approaching, basically, you know, if you think about this, this is no man's land for this side. You can't really put much there. So that's the thought for side A: entrance, walkway, lava flow, one archer emplacement, and then a sort of gradual slope that leads to this. There was talk also of putting in maybe a cave over here to, provide like a hidden entranceway into this facility. But I think I'm going to put the electronics and batteries somewhere nearby here, since a lot of the lighting will be running to these points and these points, as well as onto this side. I'll show you that in a second. This corner is probably going to be key place to hide all of the gear that runs that. Depending on when I do the carving, if I feel like I can do something special in here, I will. But right now I'm leaving that blank to receive the electronics. So then, looking back at the top view again, all right, so you can see here the travel of the lava. Now it's going to follow right underneath, basically, the archers, but of course it's traveling down. So when you look back here, see how it's traveling underneath the archer emplacement. It's going to be hot for those guys. But in any case, I was trying to get a sense of how wide these things are going to be. My current mold is about 3 inches wide, so this is about 2.5 inches wide here, and that gives me a little bit of room to cover the edges with cooled lava and blend it into the rest of the terrain. And then it'll drop down into a pool. The pool will not be terribly large, again, because of this transition, right? I'm going to need a flat area here and then bring it up. And right here it'll actually be a steep lip, and then it'll slope up like this to receive this. So in any case, I don't have a lot of footprint here to put a giant pit of lava in, but that's what I've decided to do. So the total transition from here to here is about 15 inches. And this actually is going to be modified. I was just sketching in what the platform would be in front of the entrance, and I'll show you that minor revision in just a second. And then here you can see this is sort of the travel path of the walkway when viewed above. So, looking at the second side here that has the most detail, this is a gradual slope. Now this travels about 20 inches from here to here, and coming up to a 2-foot height. That has about a 60-degree angle, I think. I can't remember, I did the math, but it's far too steep for minis to ascend, straight up, basically. So what I wanted to do was put in winding paths that would have rocky, areas to scramble over to continue. So these will be relatively flat for miniatures with, again, about a 20-degree incline. Then there'll be a ledge or boulders or something like that. The miniatures have to rise up above, and then they continue on the path. Now, I had originally envisioned sort of a much more, snaky, arduous path going up with lots of little spots. That may evolve, actually, but what I tried to do, and I'm going to show you this from a more of a profile, from a profile view rather than a top-down, is that when I started to put in the multiple paths, trying to think of how they might sync up and flat areas, I'm not entirely sure what these areas are going to look like. That's kind of where the organic construction really starts to happen, when I start to carve away. I don't want to carve it in too much and start making too many cliffs, because it might, I don't know, it might make it more complicated. I wanted this to look more like a natural slope that you could come up. Oh, that's right, this is 60 degrees. Anyway, I'm just remembering my own things, and this is 60. So here's where the dwarven entrance is going to be, and the archers will be like that. So in any case, I will be able to do a few, crisscrossing paths, and I'd like to have them join up, and they'll be, these will probably get modified as I work on it, with little flat areas here where the paths will intersect, flat area here, something like that. But again, aiming for that 20-degree mark on those inclines. And I think I'd rather have pathways rather than little tiny spots scattered around, as I think it's going to be more believable to have troops utilizing some of the natural walkways or whatever to walk up the slope rather than just hop, boink, 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 sort of teleportation like to the top of the surface. So that's the idea here. That's why I say here, paths may need some amending based on the top view. When I started to try to map them out from the top view, I don't know, I got a little bit, I had the first one done right, and it looks good, solid, so I could see, right again, how much space is that taking up? If it's a 2-inch, say, wide path, ballpark, we start to eat up a lot of the actual surface from the top view. So putting in the other ones, it started to get a little clumpy and clogged up around here, and I'm not sure what happened. So that's why I say this will probably need some amending down the road. Anyway, so that is side D for future reference, something like that. Then I wanted to take a look at this side. So this is side C, and this is the side that we had discussed very early on adding a lava flow to, and then there was talk about putting them elsewhere. But I decided that since this side doesn't really have any features going on for it, and it's a relatively steep drop, that this would be a good spot to put a lava flow in. So looking at it from this top-down view, it'll emerge from a spot in the rocks, flow, and then I'm going to have it go into a sort of rocky tunnel, which will make this transition much easier to the dropping lava here, because this will have a very different texture than this will, and the union at this point is going to be very hard for me to conceal. And in fact, going back to this one here, I may need to do the same thing here, because once I cast these, they're not going to be very easy to seal with a uniform texture. So that's why it kind of looks the way it does here. And that's the only thing I added here, partly because, again, if you think about this rolling around this corner, and I'll show you this in profile, looking at this section, this, a little curved paper here, stay straight. Looking at this section now, you can see, right, this is the Dwarven entrance side, a little bit of a gradual slope here, but this side is a 50-degree slope, 75-degree slope. This is pretty steep. This is where the machine gun nests are going to go to give a more modern warfare feel. So, you could look at it from this corner and get a sort of ancient look, and then you can look at it from this corner and get more of a modern conflict look. And of course, viewing it from the side, you'll just tie in the sides, which are fairly generic. And here's a profile look at what the entrance might look like, and here's the archer emplacement. So we're kind of looking through the rock, if you will, to see this. So looking at this here and bringing it up 10 inches, I can extend the platform out 7 inches from it, which was kind of my original goal. So I actually have a little more space than I thought, but you can see here I haven't recessed it very much. The top of the earth is actually hitting, right about there. This is a rough estimate. This is a guide of what the slope maximum can be. This is not the actual way it will be carved. Obviously it's going to have some shifting undulations and things like that. So I just put these in as, this is the guideline. I have to work within that scale, within that scope, I mean. And so, again, though, I have a little extra room if I need to kick this out. So that's where that extra room starts to come in. But in any case, having the lava traverse, say a 1-foot span here, go behind some rocks like it's pouring through a magma tunnel or something, and then dropping as a waterfall into another receiving hole. And in this instance, I'm going to omit the pool idea and just have it pour right into the ground as though it's disappearing into a subterranean, lava tunnel. And I think it'll make this area just a little bit easier to model, and it provides a little variation from the one on the side A. So. Now there is no profile look at side, what is this, D? Side B, whoops, it can't be a D, it's only A, B, yeah. A, B, C, D, never mind. Anyway, side B here, I have them numbered for myself, lettered. But there'll be 3 magazine nests over here. These are going to be actually similar in scale for the archer emplacement that was on the other side. They'll be about 3 inches deep, and these will be, modeled with like reinforced concrete or something like that. These will be scattered in various heights, so if you look at the top view, all right, this gives you a sense of their actual size relative to the entire structure. 7 inches wide, 3 inches out, and then one will be, this will be really low, this will be really high, this will be somewhere in the middle. George, he's wondering when I'm going to be done with this so we can play. So I didn't feel like I really needed to do a blow-up drawing of this area, as I can already get a sense of, it's not going to be too complicated to pick a random spot and stick those in. So in any case, that kind of wraps it up. That's sort of a very lengthy discussion of this project, but I wanted to go over it in detail with the customer so he could see if I've omitted any details, and also get a sense of the the density of the areas to be filled in. And I was talking before about the lava. If you picture this is going to be sloping as a curve, so it's sort of more difficult to use with a flowing, liquid. We put lava as a liquid, actually. I guess there's no question there. So giving me a somewhat of a flat area here to move this down at an angle and then drop is going to be a lot easier than trying to have it bend and cut through corners and still not end up, messing up on one side, or, really creating some potential difficulties where it looks like it's traveling on a rail, on a ridge. It's not going to do that, right? It's going to be going down the slope and cutting through it. So I need space for that, and I think that's why I'm restricting some of these areas from having too much development on it. So that gives you a look at this. Hopefully when I do the editing, all these words and little diagrams and such will be visible. I think they're going to be just fine. And the scale for people who might be curious is 1 inch is 10 inches on this map, and using a 1/4 inch grid graph paper was actually made it a lot easier to make sure everything was lined up right. So hopefully that looked clear, and my explanations were reasonably clear. Of course, referring to the customer, if you have questions about what this design looks like and how it's differing from some of our original discussions, feel free to ask me, and I'll try to make reference points to A, B, and C and take a photo of it, and we can talk about it more. Of course, it gives everybody else a chance to see how I'm trying to map out a complicated project that's quite large. This will be at least the scale of the castle I did a while back, although of course a very different flavor. So I have the foundation of it somewhat fleshed out already in foam, but I need to add some more foam to it just to bring out the base a little bit and then start building it up. So keep your eye on the channel for updates on that project as they develop. The lava work, I've got a new tip on a new way to do lighting that seems to never stop, and it always looks better. It always looks better. I have to. All right. Anyway, we'll see how that comes out. Wish me luck. Feel free to leave questions and comments down below. And I'm running too long, so I'll see you soon with another video. George, hey, stop it, George, hey, what are you doing? Oh my gosh, he's being bad. That's what he's doing. Okay, let me just finish this. Hold on.